Thanks for joining us for the Maize webinar series. We have two. Today's topic is focusing on sustaining productivity, backward integration, and the way forward. We really appreciate your time today. We have another one tomorrow focused on the poultry industry. I'll share a brief introduction about Wandieville Media. We're a marketing, communication, and public relations company focused on African agriculture. We work with clients based on their target market. We have worked with several stakeholders in the African agriculture industry in different African countries as well. Today's webinar is a dialogue with stakeholders in the maize value chain to discuss the new maize policy, seed production, opportunities, and the way forward. We have different speakers from the different segments of the value chain. Thank you and welcome. Thanks for joining us. I think we're waiting on one more panelist. So I'll go ahead and make an introduction, introducing all the panelists. So today we have Mr. Elenwor. He's the Deputy Director of Development Finance and is also the team lead of the CBN Maize Initiative. We also have Mr. Folarin Okelola. He's the technical advisor to the DG of the National Agriculture Seed Council, NASC. He's representing Dr. Philip Olusegun. We're waiting on, is it in? Yes, it's not in. Okay, we have Mr. Olumide Ibikunle. He's commercial lead for Corteva Agriscience, the seeds department, Corteva Agriscience West and Central Africa. We have Dr. Loretta Balogun. She's the CEO of LoryB and DP Ventures Limited. And we also have Mr. Akinyinka Akintunde. He's the Vice President of the Financial Market at AFEX. He's representing Mr. Ayodeji Balogun. Thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome. We are waiting on Dr. Bello Abubakar. He's the president of the Maize Association of Nigeria, MAAN. So he'll be joining us anytime from now. We're going to go ahead and start. Thank you. If you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A box, not the chat box. And I'll start with you. The reason we're here, Mr. Elenwor. So maize is the most common and important crop in Nigeria, grown in Nigeria, with Nigerian farmers producing over 40 million metric tons annually. And you can imagine when the new CBN ban for the FX for maize happened, it set up a lot of conversations and reactions among the stakeholders in the industry. Could you tell us from CBN's point of view, the reason behind this policy, why this initiative?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, Yewande. Thank you for your team. I also want to say good morning to the panelists. I'm looking forward to an interesting engagement. Thank you for throwing the first salvo on me, but I will respond. What actually happened on July 13th to 2020 was a circular that was produced by the Central Bank of Nigeria that simply made it very clear that CBN going forward will be unwilling to use its scarce foreign exchange to fund maize importation into the country. We felt strongly that Nigeria had the capacity to produce maize that will be able to meet the annual demand, and also that the farmers who were cultivating maize were having a wrong end of the stick, because at every point in time when they produce, they have to face the challenge of imported maize. And so at the end of the day, you had a situation where in 1 year they produce, in the second year they refuse to produce, there's scarcity because of imported maize. And so to avoid all that, the central bank in its wisdom felt that it was only fair for us to avoid a situation where we kept using our scarce foreign exchange to import something we had the capacity to produce. To reinforce that, that decision, part of what we had done earlier before the circular was to actively engage in funding smallholder farmers through Commodity Association and prime anchors. And we were able to achieve funding 281 hectares of farmland for the 2020 wet season farming. This was in a firm commitment of our belief that we had the capacity to produce maize enough to take care of the needs of the country. And so that was more like a commitment. And that was what we did before we went ahead to bring out the circular. For emphasis sake, I would also like to make clear that the intention and intent of that circular was to ensure that smallholder farmers were protected, that they were able to get value for their labor, and most importantly, that Nigeria could begin to look inward. Also, we felt that there were companies and industries that were using maize as part of their resource, and it's important they need to begin to look at a backward integration strategy on how they can begin to produce the maize in-house. We believe, based on the statistics that we have enough land, we have enough seed to be able to produce the maize that Nigeria needs. And we do not consider it to be in the right direction to keep providing our scarce foreign exchange for the importation of maize. There have been issues around it, but I will wait in terms of the interactions to be able to react to that. But I want to say very clearly that the intent of that circular was for the overall benefit of the Nigerian system and the economy, and it was also for the benefit of the Nigerian farmer. We feel that the Nigerian farmer needs to get value for his labor, and that was really the intent of the circular. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the benefits of the smallholder farmers, for the maize farmers. So we'll go ahead and take it to the seed industry. Mr. Folarin Okelola. NASC is the seed council and the regulatory body for seeds in Nigeria. And from research and farmers' experience, IB seeds tend to be better in terms of productivity and yield.
Okay, thank you very much, Yewande, and thank you to for organizing this important discussion. And good morning to all the panelists and to everybody listening to us. And I must appreciate the CBN representative for that initial background talk on the topic we are discussing today. The Seed Council is well aware of the new policy direction of government, which has placed a ban on maize importation. And of course, the reasons have been clearly attributed. But going to your question and taking from the speech of the CBN representative, mention was made of we having enough seeds to meet the demand for maize grain production, and that is where I would take it up and say, for us in the Seed Council, we know that the national maize demand is about 118,000 metric ton plus. But what we produce by all the companies in Nigeria as of 2019 was just about 44,000 metric tons. So it shows that we still have a huge demand for a gap for seed in the country. And you know that when we are talking of seed, we need to talk about the different categories of seeds. We have the open pollinated varieties, we have hybrid varieties, and we need also to look at some facts about Nigeria. The fact that we have one of the lowest yield in across the sub-region now. And we in the Seed Council know that if we will benefit fully from the good intentions of the CBN intervention, we need to have certain things in place to make sure that there is enough seed. The CBN representative spoke clearly about all the interventions in producing maize, but I think it's an opportunity that we are here together to look at the fact that we also need to intervene in the seed industry if we will get the expected results that we want. So we have a lot of dependence on introduction of germplasm and genetic materials from outside the country to support local production for seeds. We have a lot of companies we've invited to come into Nigeria, multinationals who have protected materials that they will not want to bring into the country to produce because of the fear of being stolen or being copied. And all these people depend on importation of their germplasm. For us, the decision of the CBN is a good one, but we need to work together with the CBN to maybe look at putting an exemption for, allowing jam plasm to enter into the country to support continuous production of seeds, that will help us in attaining the desired goal. If we will reach that goal, we need to deploy, improve and enhance technologies. We need to deploy hybridization. We need to deploy some smarter technologies, and we need, parental materials to combine with our own local materials to have hybrids that will give, the yield that we are looking for. With our current average yield of maybe 3.5 metric tons, I think we can do better if we have superior genetics that can give 8-10 metric tons, and in 1-2 years, we can double the productivity that we have currently now. So we need to look back and see what can we do to make the seed industry be able to ramp up production to meet, the seed demand. And collectively, if we do this, then we are good to go. I think that is where I will stop for now. I hope I've answered what you threw at me, Yewande, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Folarin. Thank you. So for you, it's important that Nigeria, we have enough power we can definitely produce, but we need to mix it up with the hybrid seeds, and we need to be able to bring in the parental lines. We'll go to Mr. Olumide Ibikunle. Mr. Olumide Ibikunle, you're an international company invested in Nigeria. And how is the Maize FX ban going to affect your operations, and how is it going to affect your operations now and in the long term? Will your company be investing in local production anytime soon?
Thank you, Yewande. And first of all, I want to say good morning to my fellow panelists and also everybody that is on the call this morning. Thank you very much. I think Mr. Ihua and Folarin actually have spoken, and I'm glad that Mr. Ihua was able to actually enumerate the reasons, which are very genuine reasons, looking at the smallholder farmers in Nigeria. But again, Folarin mentioned the fact that if we are going to look at those people, we need to target their productivity. And that is where it impacts on Corteva Agriscience. Corteva Agriscience is an international company, and we only develop, produce, and market hybrid seeds. And for you to produce hybrid seeds, we need to understand that there are 3 major classes of seeds. We have the parental seeds, we have the foundation seeds, and we have the commercial seeds. And it's good for central bank to understand this one. The commercial seed is actually the end seed that we sell to the farmers. And before we get to that level, we have to have the parent seeds, which is in the hand of the innovator, the person who developed the seeds. And these seeds, like Mr. Folarin mentioned, we don't have intellectual property protection in Nigeria. And that means for a company like ours to stay in business and be sustainable and do more, we need to have these parent seeds produced outside the country, because we cannot entrust it to anybody in the country at the moment. For the last, probably the last 7-8 years, Mr. Folarin can attest to that, and we're still on it. So because of that, that means we have to keep importing our parent seeds into the country to produce the foundation seed at our level, and after that we can give it to any outgrower to produce the commercial seed for us. So with the technical ban, I'll call it technical ban, because that, if I can get my forex from the parallel market, so be it. But I cannot get it from the central bank. And the impact of that is that now I'm going to bring my parent seeds in at a very high cost, which is now going to translate to higher cost of producing the foundation seed, and at the end of the day, higher cost of producing the commercial seed. Now our interest, and the interest of CBN, is that you want the farmers to produce their crop, their maize crop, at a very good price and be competitive, with whoever is bringing his own grain from outside, so that they can do better, But if at the end of the day, what they're going to use for planting is coming at a higher cost. The end result, which is the grain, still comes at a higher cost. And at the end of the day, the person, the aggregator who is going to process is going to buy at a higher cost. He processes his grain. He has the end product, maybe, you know, Cadbury or Nestle, or even the feed mill. At the end of the day, the cost still goes high. Now, the take on this is this. I listened to Mr. Ihua. He said they had this smallholder farmers. I would say, you know, I don't think we have come to the end of this. I think we still need to bring in all the stakeholders who are involved. I mean, if I look at the people on this panel here, we are just a bit of the stakeholders. There's still a larger people. We need to come together and first of all say, what is the gap? You mentioned land. We have land, yes, 4.5 million for maize. We have it. Do we have the genetics? No, we don't have the genetics. The ones that we have on the ground, Mr. Folarin has already said it, brings in an average of 2 metric tons per hectare. You understand? That is not going to, see, the seed we produce is just a third of what we need. So we need, you know, whether it is Corteva, whether it's Syngenta, from anywhere, the international research institutes, we need to bring in the germplasm, the genetics here, make crosses with what we have here, and increase the productivity of the ones. And at the end of the day, that transforms to the productivity of the farmer. Now, let me just add this before I close. Even if we increase the productivity of that farmer, there are still certain things that the government needs to do, and that is the enabling environment. If you don't have good roads that goes to that farmer in the village, how does Dr. Loretta bring our grain from that farmer to the town? At the end of the day, you are going to bring it at a higher price. So we cannot do things in piecemeal. What you have looked at the smallholder farmer, you need to look at that poultry farmer. You need to look at Dr. Loretta, who is an aggregator. You need to look at all these things, you know, holistically. So I think we need a little bit of time for this. We did this during the rice one. There was a time given. So we need to look at what are the gaps, and how can we close this gap? When can we close, and when can it be closed? And then we can have that ban. We have the land, you are correct, but I think there are still certain things we need to do to close the whole thing. Let me stop at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Olumide. But one of the key things I wanted you to also answer is, if there's time, or if you had time, is this something in the long term that your company will want to invest in long-term production locally?
Already, yeah, we have started it doing our local self production. We started the pilot about 2-3 years ago, and in fact, right now, part of what we produced last year is on sale this year, and we're supposed to ramp it up. Now we're impacted a little bit by COVID-19, but it's an ongoing thing where we are continuing it. But then our parent seeds will still be imported with getting permission from NASC and plant quarantine. We will still need to bring in our parent seeds into the country, but it's an ongoing process.
Thank you very much. Please, I keep seeing questions on the chat box. If you have a question, put it in the Q&A box. Please put it in the Q&A box. Dr. Loretta Balogun, I would have to go to you. You have been in the value chain for over 20 years. You've been aggregating from smallholder farmers in the North, Kaduna, and the Western part as well. But from your experience with this new policy, how do you think it would affect your price and your demand, your view on this policy?
Yeah, good morning, Yewande, and all the panelists. Thank God for this opportunity. Now, in terms of the maize value chain and how it affects us, I think this policy is a very good one, but it's ill-timed. This ban came on the 13th of July, and as at that time, maize had already increased astronomically. At the point of harvest, we had the maize, we were at the point of harvest last year, the harvest for 2019, crop 2019, maize was going for about 70,000 per ton. As at 13th of July, when the ban came, the price of maize was already doubled to 140,000 naira per ton. So there was already like scarcity and extremely high prices of maize as at the time this ban came. So that just compounded the problem and made it even, the prices, just go off the roof completely. As we speak today, maize, when I got your invite and I confirmed the maize price was about 165, 170. As we speak today, maize is about 206,000 per ton. So this just came at the wrong time. And when these things come up and they just say with immediate effect, it's, I believe that it should be phased, it should be planned, it should be, worked on, so that, that, okay, by this time, we are going to stop the ban, giving forex for the importation of maize, but just coming and, stopping something in the middle of, an already difficult year, was ill-timed. Number one, we had the COVID difficulties that came up, all the logistic challenges, the fact that farmers couldn't even go to their farms on time. We had all those issues. There was a NAMED prediction in February talking about cessation of rain and unpredictable weather patterns. So when you compound all that with the effects of COVID, the effects of unpredictable rainfall, and then the already high prices as at 13th of July, when TBN, rolled out this policy, it was completely ill-timed. Because now it has just compounded the problem. Now maize is 200% higher than it was at the harvest time for the crop 2019. So that just makes everything, difficult and, very, very, if you're talking about the farmers, the smallholder farmers, at 140, they were already getting good value for their money. But there was already a shortfall in supply from crop 2019. And that shortfall, we're already contending with it at extremely high prices. And this ban just came to add more to it and then compound the problem. So much so that we are, maize is now going for about 206,000 per ton thereabout. And it's even going to get worse. Because for maize, even though the harvest time in the south is already harvested, and I had a discussion with people in the south, we don't really buy much of maize in the south. And they said, because of the effects of COVID and the poverty and the food shortages, because they were already too hungry to even start waiting. And they were, right from the farm, they were already selling it for harvest to get money because of the lockdown of the COVID, the effects of the COVID and the lockdown effects. And then in the north, maize was not right for us to be able to store until somewhere around December. So you are talking about third quarter, maize is already going for over 200,000 naira per ton. So what happens in the fourth quarter? The fourth quarter is going to start in October. I don't just know what's going to happen. So this policy is a very good one. I appreciate the policy of CBN, trying to empower smallholder farmers, trying to support food security in Nigeria, but the timing was completely wrong. They did not take into consideration the NAMED prediction. They didn't take into consideration the effects of COVID and all the logistic challenges and all the shortfall. And then, they just came up with this ban. And this ban, maybe the merchants are the ones benefiting from it, or people that are hoarding, speculators. At the end of the day, it has shot the price of maize astronomically. And then when you even look at it, how much, they're talking about importing just about 100,000 tons. That's just about 20 million naira. How much, $20 million, how much will that affect, affect our scarce foreign exchange? So when you look at everything put together, it's a good policy, but the timing is wrong and it's really affecting the prices. And at the end of the day, the common man is the worse off for it. Even the industrial users are complaining bitterly. Everybody's complaining, poultry farmers are complaining, and at the end of the day, you're going to lose jobs in that sector. And the smallholder farmers you're trying to empower, they're already okay with 140, definitely. Even 140 is even extremely high. So this will not really make much difference to them, but on the other hand, it's going to affect the poultry sector, the feed millers adversely, even the industrial users. So for me, it's completely in time. It could have been phased, it could have been planned better, and then, plan towards crop 2020 or something, better timing.
Thank you very much. This conversation is getting heated. Mr. Ihua is in the hot seat. Mr. Ihua, I hope you're ready for us. With AFEX also being one of the largest aggregators in the value chain, from smallholder farmers in the value chain, obviously, they had an analysis report done recently for a 15-year food trend, showing the commodities cycle, like a 3-year cycle, with highs and lows in terms of demand and price. With this trend, combined with the initial lockdown of COVID-19 and this recent FX ban, how would this impact the commodity trend in terms of maize? And how would it affect the supply and demand for maize?
Hi, good morning once again, and thank you, Yewande, for hosting this session, for putting this together. Good morning once again to all the panelists. I think we're at a very, very critical point in the country, and this ban is not out of the norm for what is going on in the macroeconomic space of the country. Now, when Mr. Ihua was talking, he made a very, very key point. He said, we have the capacity to produce, but we are not yet living up to that capacity we need. And everybody on the panel will agree with me that Nigeria is still well below the production capacity that it has. Now, the question is this the right time to implement the policy, or is this not the right time? And what is the impact, especially on smallholder farmers and the consumers of these commodities, right? At AFEX, we sit on commodity prices, and we've been able to see prices over a very, very elongated period of time to be able to make informed decisions about some of the things we do in our coffers, right? Now, from our analysis, every 3 years, there's always a cyclical reset of commodities prices, in which prices start from a very, very low base and reach a very, very high value before they dip again. The last time we experienced this was in 2016, 2017, and we're seeing a reoccurrence of this. Now, the question is it driven primarily by the CBN policy, or by COVID, or by other macroeconomic factors? Yes, the smallholder farmers, even if you look at the data, at harvest, 4, 5, 6 months after harvest, most smallholder farmers already sold off most of their maize, right? So they may not even be the attendant beneficiaries of this elevated price of maize. But the question is, this elevated prices, is this sustainable for all consumers of commodities across the sector? Right? You are looking at maize, yes, but it has ripple effect across, especially the poultry value chain, and it fits directly into it. The CBN banning this is for a number of factors which Mr. Ihua has elaborated on. But what we also need to look at is, how do we ensure that the smallholder farmers that are producing below capacity, can their capacity be increased so that they can meet up to par before we can upscale? The seed council, the seed producers, they've all put in efforts to ensure that quality seeds are available. You see other input providers ensuring that the supports are available for the smallholder farmers, but can they access it? And this is one of the things you give kudos to the CBN for. They've provided the framework for all the value chain to be taken care of, right from the input space, right? Providing inputs, providing access to finance to smallholder farmers via a number of all their initiatives that they've put in place. Now, the question is, can we sustain the importation of maize? Which is why I think the banning of importation of maize by the CBN is a timely intervention in the market. And the reasons are not far off. Yes, this is the period where scarcities are the highest, right? Because Nigeria is a mono production economy in which we produce maize majorly once in a year, there's usually this period of glut in which most producers focus on importing maize into the country. But if we don't have this intervention in place in a timely manner, there's no way we can lay the foundation for increased production on the smallholder farmers' part. And that's why all structures must be put in place early on to ensure that appropriate volumes, appropriate incentives are put in place to ensure that the smallholder farmers are structured enough to be able to produce up to their capacity. Prices of maize will keep rising this season based on a number of factors. COVID effect is very, very huge on production of maize because most smallholder farmers couldn't get access to inputs in a timely manner, right? The climate change is affecting it, even though we may not acknowledge it fully right now. Rains are still going on heavily in some parts where productions are taking place, which may delay harvests this year, right? So we're likely to see more increase in food prices. But all in all, I think the CBN putting this structure in place at this point is a very, very good move by the CBN. If you look at it from the macroeconomic part of view and from the capacity production point of view of the smallholder farmers. And the earlier we start putting these structures in place locally to increase production capacity of these smallholder farmers, the better for the country. And one of the other key things that has always caused a shortage in that has always put the smallholder farmers and the economy as a whole at a disadvantage in terms of this production is the access to markets for both the buyer and the seller, and which is one of the things AFEX has put in place. How do we ensure that prices of information, prices of commodities are available to all parties at all points in time, and then the logistics activities across the value chain are seamlessly carried out? A lot of people that will be impacted by the ban on maize by the CBN are usually the consumers, which I mentioned earlier, the poultry value chain players. But one of the key things that is needed for them that is required to mitigate this is by providing a market in which people can take positions ahead for their consumption needs. In the news, in the news yesterday, in one of the European countries, some of the consumers of these commodities are already paying for commodities they will consume 2 years ahead from today. Today in Nigeria, we don't have that mechanism in place, right? So everybody play when the commodities are available, that's when they buy. We need to move from spot purchases to the point wherein consumers of these commodities can lock in their price early on. And for this to happen, all stakeholders must be able to play a part in this role. And that's one of the key things you need to laud the CBN on. They've put in structures to ensure that there's a market which consumers of commodities could key in early on. And they keep working on ensuring that transparency is available in the markets, right? So the farmers always get value for whatever they are producing. The consumers of these commodities, the feed millers, the poultry association, always have enough commodity to feed their factory at all points in time to ensure consistent supply to them. Once we have all this in place, we ensure that the issue of prices of commodities always fluctuating and going high and going low will be greatly eliminated because you have a fair mechanism for discovering prices in the market. But all this will not work if the CBN keeps encouraging importation of maize to the detriment of local production, right? Most of the farmers will not have assurance of market because of the alternative that consumers have. And this is one step that the CBN has gotten right by intervening appropriately and eliminating the importation of these commodities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akintunde. Thank you. So what we're hearing is a balance. We're in between. It's good for the country, but then the production as well is one thing to look at. But with every new policy, there's always inflation in prices. That's with every commodity in different sectors. So that is guaranteed. That has to happen. But we want to hear from the voice of the farmers. And the voice of the farmers, the maize farmers to be specific, it's Dr. Bello Abubakar, who's the president of the Maize Association of Nigeria, MAAN. The truth is farmers just want what works for them. They want accessibility, affordability, but most importantly, productivity. What's the association's view on this? What's the smallholder farmers? What are their view? Do we have enough grains available to access to act, and is it accessible for the Nigerian market?
Okay. Good morning, all. I'm glad to be with you today on behalf of Maize Farmers Association of Nigeria and all maize farmers in Nigeria. Actually, this session is very, very, very important, especially to we farmers, maize farmers. First of all, let me briefly explain the importance of maize as a major commodity in our human life, because maize is number 2 in the food commodity, and it is one of the most essential commodity in our life. Though all the maize that we are producing in Nigeria, 60% goes to the maize processors. That is all the feed mills and other food processors. Secondly, let me also explain the impact of the banning importation of maize into our farmers or into our country, because the importation of maize into Nigeria will encourage our farmers all over the country to produce more, to go farm. Also, even those who are not in the system or are not doing maize farming, they will now come and join to farm maize, because the maize that they are producing before, most of our farmers were being frustrated because there is no market. Of those that are consuming the maize are importing it. But if there is no more importation for maize, they are sure that they have a good market that processors, the importers will come directly and buy from them. So look at this year season farming now. Let me tell you one thing. There is a lot of farmers who now change their mind from one crop to maize farming because of this information about the banning of maize importation. If you go around this country, you will see maize all over, everywhere on the road. If you are going along the road, and then this year, even on drugs and the mountain, people planted maize. Why? Because they had that the importation of maize has been banned. So therefore, there is one of the major impact and the benefit that farmers are well encouraged to go back and farm maize. Secondly, apart from the wet season farming, there is also a provision for the wet season farming, which was unusual for the past years. But now, because of this ban on importation of maize, there is a provision for the dry season farming for maize, so that in a year at least we will have a 2-crop season, wet season and dry season, so that we will now bridge the gap on the demands of all these supplies, these processors, because actually what they need or what they required is being produced in Nigeria. It's only that there is some certain factors they are complaining about it. So now we are going into dry season farming in Nigeria, especially the support that we are getting from the CBN for all the commodities. So now this year they are ready and they are emphasizing that really farmers should go into dry season farming. They will support us all the necessary inputs, all the services, and even the cash for other logistics in the program. So therefore, you can see that there is a lot of benefit from the farmers in that side. Also, apart from that, for the impact of this banning of importation of maize, there is an increase of the rate of engaging many people. That is the job opportunities, because the farmers, that to enhance their production, increase their production, they will now employ more and more people to work into their farms. Also, apart from that, in terms of supply and marketing, all the processes will be improved, and then even the market, the processors will now improve their manpower because of the production. Their production will be increased, and they will get the enough maize that they want from what the farmers produced. Also, apart from that, there is also increase in our economic, economy in the country. That's the GDP will also be increased. Also, there will be the insecurity will be reduced, because all this insecurity, the bandits, the people that are kidnapping people, most of them, because they don't have job. So if there is an opportunity for them to go back farm, the rate of this insecurity will be reduced. And then even the forest, they used to hide in the forest. If government can clear that places so that farmers will go and farm in that place, there is a lot of benefit there. It will reduce the rate of the insecurity in the country. So there is a lot of benefits, and finally there will be enough and sufficient food security in the country. which is the most important and the most paramount. So that is the importance of and the benefit of this banning importation of maize in Nigeria to our farmers, especially our local farmers. Because one thing that most of the maize importers are complaining about our maize in Nigeria is that they are saying that it is contaminated with aflatoxin. Really, we agree that there is a contamination of aflatoxin in maize, but not all the country. Mostly it is in the southern part of the country. And you know that the maize is being produced, the major production area for maize is the northern part of the country. So there is some certain measures that was taken by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and FAA FAO, and in collaboration with Maize Association of Nigeria. Since 2018, 19, and even this year, 2020, there is a support that is from the federal government, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, and FAO to our maize farmers, in which they supported us with some agrochemicals for pesticide and insecticide, and also the Aplasep. That is the Aplasep that is controlling the aflatoxin contamination. We have started using Aplasep to control the aflatoxin, especially in the northern part of this country. So therefore, the issue of aflatoxin contamination, which is one of the major problems they are complaining, actually farmers are supported and they produce what the maize processors they need in terms of maize supply. So therefore, this problem has been solved for the aflatoxin contamination. They are complaining about it. Maybe some people are not aware about that. That's why I said, let me explain about this. Also, if you look at the kind of the support that the CBN is giving now to our farmers in this country, especially with the maize farmers, it is enough for us to produce all what they need. If you look at the history of maize production in Nigeria, in 2015, our production is just 8 million tons. It is there in the Ministry of Agriculture in the analysis, so it is only 8 million tons. But since the Anko Barawa started, because farmers were encouraged, are being supported all there, so the production now has raised from that 8 million. By last year, 2019, the analysis showed that in the whole Nigeria, we produced 20 million tons of maize. What is the requirement for the maize processors in Nigeria? I think it is only 16 million tons. So if you look at it, there is even an excess of about 4 million. So there is a lot of benefits. So therefore, that is why farmers, especially small-scale farmers, are supporting this banning importation, because they are encouraged to produce, and they know that from there they will contribute towards the development and progress of the food security and even our economy to grow well. That is for that section. Well, apart from the issue of the inputs or the capacity of our farmers or what they need, all what we need is an enabling environment that is will be suitable for our farmers to get all what they want. That is the major issues. Number one, you said mechanization, which is very necessary and a key. Number two, extension services. Number three, input supplies, inputs, all the inputs, necessary inputs, seeds, fertilizer, agrochemicals, herbicide, insecticide, post-emergence, pre-emergence. That is all for the inputs. So all this from mechanization, extension, and inputs, now we have that enabling environment because of the support that is coming from the federal government through the CBN, Anko Boro's program. Farmers are getting all these, the services, the extension, the inputs. They are getting it. And then apart from that, there is also another support from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, especially this year because of this COVID-19. They are distributing these palliatives. So farmers are getting all what they want. If you look at the area of mechanization, the mechanization process before, farmers, they don't know how to use planter to plant their seed with planter. But now, through this program, farmers are being rendering services to them with the planters. And then if you come to the harvesting, we are using harvesters. If you come to the plow, harrowing, all is mechanized, all is mechanized. So, and then in terms of the extension services, you see that there is a specialist that are rendering these services to our farmers. They will educate them, they will train them on how to use all the inputs in their farm, when to use this, when to use that, and even the services that will be rendered to their farms. So the issue of getting the inputs or any services is already there. So the farmers now in Nigeria are not the farmers that people are thinking or they know before, that they don't know how to farm, how to do the mechanized farming. Even this digital system on the extension services, our farmers are being educated about it. So therefore, there is an improvement. There's an improvement. It's not the farmers that we knew before. And then we thank God, as I'm still emphasizing and reinstating that CBN is the major and the key to all this success. So therefore, our farmers are producing, and they have the hope now to produce more and more on what we are producing, because the challenge always the commodity associations and the other relevant agencies are in control to see that we have solved all the major challenges of our farmers in Nigeria because of the support we are getting. So therefore, our own, what I want to say about the other, our colleagues, that is the maize processors, especially the poultry farmers. Really, we know that this issue of banning importation of maize and the issue of the high price of maize now is affecting them and is affecting their business for now. But let me go back to what my colleague just said. This high price, is this something that will be sustainable, will last for forever, or for some times? It will not, because every year, even if there is no this banning importation of maize, every year, whoever in the maize value chain, he knows that this time around, especially the marketers and the processors of maize, they know that within this time every year, the price of all the commodities is going up. That is normal. But when it goes up, by end of August, like this time around, and down to the September, the price will start coming down because of the new crops that is coming into the market. Because right away now, there is some areas that our farmers have started harvesting what they have planted. That is the early planting area. They have started harvesting. The only thing is that the content, the moisture content is high, but the price now has started coming down. Because if you go to the southwest, there are some markets, even now, you can get maize at the rate of 125,000 per metric ton. But I know that the moisture content is high. I know they cannot use that one, but it's a step forward that the price will come down.
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Abubakar. And one of the things I would agree with is, with new policies like this, it creates opportunity in the value chain. So it's definitely positive for Nigerians. was for more investors into the sector, especially with the initial pandemic and then just unemployment is an opportunity for people to come into the value chain. But what I hear a lot is, even though it's a good thing for Nigeria, we're hearing the difference between seeds and grains. It comes back to it. Nigeria, we can grow the grains, but do we have the seeds? So in this situation, it's good for the farmers growing, but how do we get those initial seeds to be able to produce and get those grains? So I'll go back to Mr. Wa, which everybody has just put on the hot seat, to tell us, is there going to be, how do we differentiate? How do we get it? It's a great initiative by CBN. It brings more investment into the sector. It's good for the farmers. But then how do we get the producer, the seed production? How do we get the parental lines? I think that's one of the issues right here. So I'll let you go ahead and handle that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the panelists. Thank you for those insightful comments from all the panelists. It's clear that the passion and the concern for the maize sector is real and is glaring, and I really want to appreciate everybody that has spoken. For us, at the central bank, we have a holistic look at the issue around maize. The decision around restricting forex utilization for maize is just one piece of the bigger puzzle. And so what we did in the beginning of the year was to ask ourselves, how do we intend to play this year to finance and support? So what we did, like it has been alluded to by the associations and the AFEX and the likes, what we did this year is to carry out the highest number of financing intervention for smallholder farmers under maize in the history of central bank. So we funded 281,000 hectares of land for the wet season. And 2/3 of that, we're basically focusing on smallholder farmers under the association, of which MAAN is one of them. The second issue is the circular that was brought out. There's a third dimension. In the history of this country, we've never done a 2-cycle financing. And so what we decided to do is to say, you know what, it's possible, based on our analytics that we've seen, it's possible to do 2 cycles of planting in a year. And so we are also pursuing the dry season farming initiative. So our target for the dry season, which the planning has already started, is to cultivate 500,000 hectares, basically focusing on more contiguous land and using high yield seeds. Now, the point of high yield seeds brings me directly to your question. So what are we doing? In the last few weeks, what we've been doing is engaging concerning the fallout of this decision and the concerns that have been raised by various stakeholders. We've engaged with the association, we've engaged with Poultry Association. In fact, I had a meeting with Poultry Association of Nigeria yesterday, the Southwest ESCO, on how we would address the challenge. Like you have said, Yewande, policies like this will have some consequences, and part of what we are expected to do is to manage those consequences as they come and address them. And so what we've done is we continue to engage with the Poultry Association of Nigeria. We're also having another engagement this Friday to see how we can close the gap. We believe strongly that there's maize in the country, and that it's bringing the major stakeholders together to see the common good in ensuring that those maize that are available in the country is made available to the Poultry Association so that they don't keep dealing with high prices. However, what we also did, which is interesting this year, is that 2 things. We began to create a market for certified seed producers. So for example, companies like Seedco based in Kaduna had their highest orders this wet season farming in the history of them being in Nigeria, the highest order of maize that they had in terms of their certified seeds. And that's what we expect to do going forward. So our engagement are also with the seed producers. We're also engaging the likes of Value Seed, discussing with the likes of Pioneer Seeds. I'm hoping I will discuss with the likes of also Corteva also going forward, because we know that to solve the problem, it has to take a holistic look. Are there going to be initial pains, which have been confirmed by the various panelists? Yes, but I also want us to look at the bigger picture. If you look at the numbers, because I always have the numbers before me every single day prior to the circular. If you look at the numbers of imports, like it has been alluded to, on the average, when we do importations about 400,000 metric tons. That is a scratch compared to the total consumption in the country. So it therefore means that it is not the amount, is not the importation quantity, right? It's not the importation quantity that is causing the whole distortion in the market, because what that quantity does within the market is not that much. So having that understanding, we know that two things have to be clear. Number one, we have to create an environment where we boost production, ensure we create linkages, and at the end of the day, also encourage the production of seeds in the country so that there will always be seeds. Now we know that there's land, seeds also are the focus, and that's part of what we're trying to do. So Central Bank going forward is ensuring that this that has happened this year will no longer happen again. And how are they making sure that will not happen? By ensuring that we back a dry season farming project, a dry season farming initiative. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're currently in discussion with associations, we're in discussion with prime anchors, we're in discussion with companies who want to be involved in backward integration. Part of the commitment we made to PAN yesterday was this: beyond being poultry producers, if you want to go into backward integration, we are willing to support you so that we can get as many people being involved in the maize production, because we know strongly that we have the capacity to produce enough maize that will serve the need of the country. Now, in looking at the whole picture, there are always going to be concerns and pain points. Our job in the central bank is to quickly engage and address those pain points, and that's what we are doing. The engagement is ongoing. I discuss with a number of your panelists almost on a daily basis in terms of what is going on in the market. How can we help to reduce some of those pain points? But the points that have been raised, in all honesty, I have noted them. I've taken note of them. That of the Seed Council, that of the likes of Dr. Loretta. I've taken note of that, and that's part of what we do. We take feedbacks so that we begin to look at how we begin to react to some of these issues. But it's important to note the interest of the central bank still is on ensuring that, number one, that we have the capacity, believing that we have the capacity to produce what we consume, and we believe that in supporting farmers, smallholder farmers, prime anchors, supporting companies who will do backward integration, we can meet our maize requirements in the country. Concerning the issue of seeds, we are currently engaging with the likes of Seedco and Pioneer Seeds and Value Seed and the rest that are in the country. Somebody asked me yesterday, says, what happens to parent seeds that will be brought from outside the country? Does the ban affect them? Does the ban not affect them? The truth of the matter is the proportion of parent seed to the total seed production is a small quantity, because you need a small quantity to open up and create your foundation seed. Then from your foundation seed, you now create your certified seed. I mean, so it's not as if it's one large quantity that needs to be brought into the country. So while looking at the short term, we're going to engage. We engage with all the relevant stakeholders, PAN, MAAN, and every other person producing maize to ensure that we close this existing gap and tune down the pain points. In the medium term, we're focusing on ensuring that we, in the history of this country and in the history of the Central Bank of Nigeria, finance the first dry season maize farming of 500,000 hectares. We're using high yield seeds. We use high yield seeds for the wet season. We're using high yield seeds for the dry season. Our estimate in terms of Central Bank's contribution to the total quantity is, if we apply on the average 4 tons per hectare on those 500,000 hectares, we're looking at about 2 million metric tons as our own contribution to the total production capacity. That's our commitment to ensuring that that's our commitment to ensure that there's food security in the country, but most importantly, that we're able to produce the maize that is required in the country. That is really the commitment that we're making. And I want to please crave the indulgence of the panelists. We understand, and we're a listening organization. We take back the feedbacks, but part of our responsibility as public servants is also to look at the bigger picture. And we keep looking at the bigger picture every day, and we know that certain interventions might cause some initial pains, and they are responsive to addressing those pains. But if we don't go through this route, we will not leave this cycle of 1 year a farmer believes he will get revenue and there is a glut in the market. The following year, he says he's not going to be involved in maize because there was glut, and all of a sudden there is shortage. And you just cannot determine the vagaries in the market. We are committed as a central bank to ensuring that the maize revolution that we have started have a bright future for the country. We believe that Nigeria not only has the capacity to produce enough maize to feed ourselves, We also believe that Nigeria has the capacity to have enough maize to even export. So for us, there's a plan that we have set out already to ensure that after this season and subsequent season, in not too distant a future, Nigeria might even begin to think about exporting maize outside the country. The issue around the types of variety, quality of variety, the discussions we have with Seed Council, I don't know if Mr. Okelola is aware, but we have discussions back and forth with Seed Council, and those discussions are ongoing because there are new players who want to come into the seed space, and we want to listen to them and see what value they are bringing into the discussion. But whatever value add that can encourage the production of maize in Nigeria, the central bank is willing to listen to it. Thank you very much, Yewande.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ihua. Oh, I think we missed Mr. Ayodeji Balogun. I wanted him to speak after this, but he left. Well, thank you for joining us. But I will go back to Seed Council. I'm going to put you on the spot here. So for all the success to happen in the value chain, the reality is Nigeria doesn't have a PVP law. So our grains, the seeds are not protected. So if we talk about investors into the value chain, into Nigeria, we also want to welcome them. But then what is Seed Council doing to ensure that whoever is bringing their hybrid seeds or their parental line, they're protected? To even encourage researchers, local researchers from the industry in the different universities, how do you encourage local researchers to produce their own maize hybrid varieties? What is Nigeria doing? What is Seed Council doing to protect them? What is going on? Do we have a PVP law? How are you protecting the industry?
Yeah, thank you again, Yewande, for the very important question, and thank you for the second shot of Mr. Ihua from the CBN. And I see that we need to communicate more. We need to move closer, this council and the CBN. We need to move closer because the basis for success in all our intervention, if we'll get the success, is seeds. If we deploy the best quality genetics, I can assure you we can get more than 4 tons. We can get 6, 7, 8 tons. And the CBN is the council is fully in support of the initiative of the CBN. And what are our own take here or our own suggestions? Let us come with a short exemption for seed parental material and genetics introduction into the country, because they will help, create the better seeds that we are looking of. You talked about supporting the seed sector. This is very good. We need to support companies. Not only the companies, we also need to support the research institution. And I need to sound clearly that seed production is not a biscuit and bread factory production that you can take a decision today and you get your results maybe in 2-3 days. You need to plan for seed production. So if we get the volume of good quality seed that we are looking at to meet the demand for grains that we are looking at now, then it means we need to look at what we have even at the research level to see if we can churn out that proportion of seed to meet what we need. If we don't have it, then we need to plan how do we ramp up and get the adequate quality of seeds that we need. And yes, the question that Yewande has posed, the support for the quick passage and signing of the plant variety protection law. Once we have the plant variety protection law, then it means we have protection for whatever parental material of anybody who can claim he has a superior genetics. There's no protection. Once we have that law passed, we won't then listen to excuse. There will be no need for anybody to say we want to bring parental material, because you can protect your material and nobody will use it without your authorization. That bill currently is before the House of Representatives. It has gone through second reading. It's now committed to the Committee of the Whole for discussion. We are pushing very much in the Seed Council to see that between now and December, or at most first quarter of 2021, this bill is passed and signed into law by Mr. President. So we would solicit the support of the CBN, the Maize Association of Nigeria, everybody to support the quick passage of the plant variety protection law. If we have this law, it means even our research institution will be motivated to do better than what they are doing now. Because when they develop a variety, they can protect it, and they can get royalties. They can have more, resources to do breeding. Now, the funding of research institutions to, churn out superior genetics is very, very inadequate. So we need to fund research to make sure they can produce the needed breeder seeds that will be used to produce foundation seed and subsequently certified seed, and even do research that will bring out materials that can compete with, materials outside. And this can only be possible if they know that there will be a sort of motivation for whatever they are doing. So this is an important bill that we need to push. For us in the council, we'll talk with you after this chat. The DG will even speak with you. We need to have a common portal, the CBN, the Seed Council on importation with the customs, so that there's a clear delineation between seed and grains. When we request for information on import of maize, for example, and we say maize seed, all we get is just import of, grains, and there's no clear delineation. So we should have a way where we can differentiate between seed import and grain import, into the country, both at the CBN level, at the custom level, at the council level, at the quarantine level. So we see a need to have a common portal for all these agencies, that deal with seed issues. And there should be, is what I've said, farmers should be, encouraged to use only seeds from accredited sources. I appreciate the list of companies you have mentioned, they are accredited sources, but not only that, the council has now introduced, an electronic label, the seed codex. Let us make sure that all the seeds we deploy carry the seed codex, because it's an electronic authentication tag, different from our former tag, which cannot communicate. With the seed codex, it's easier to, stifle out those who are not registered and are doing, supply of seeds to all these associations. And at the end, the promised 3-4 tons, you cannot get it. So we need to ensure this. And I think if we can do all this, we would get quicker to our destination than we think of. For us in the Seed Council, it's a good initiative from the CBN. It may be hard at the beginning, but we can weather the storm. We also believe we don't support importation of any form of crops into the country. We believe we can do the local production, but for us to do the local production, we just need a small boost, for the seed system to be able to meet up local seed production. We see also that Nigeria can play a much greater role in this global seed trade. Now we contribute with benefit insignificantly from the billion-dollar seed trade. But when we have a plant variety protection law, it means one of these, some of these multinationals can, domicile their production hub in Nigeria and produce seeds in Nigeria and export to our neighboring countries and even to Europe and all those other places. The council is making effort to make sure that we are ISTA accredited. We are members of the OECD. We operate the OECD certification scheme so that our seeds, apart from the issue of aflatoxin, can also meet all the other international standards that make them fit, to go out and be used anywhere across the world. So the council is fully in support of this, but our just small whatever is, let us make room for importation of parental materials and genetic materials that we need pending the period when we have a plant variety protection law in the country, and to call on everybody to join hands with us to make sure that this bill becomes a reality. It means our maize farmers also can become breeders, because they've been working over the years, they have maybe discovered some new varieties. They can also protect it and register it and produce their own, certified seed. This is what happens everywhere in the world, and we can also do same in Nigeria. So I think I will stop here, and maybe if there is still more time, we can also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Folarin. So Seed Council is integral to the success of this policy. So we would hold you to it and ensure that this law actually passes. Mr. Ayodeji is with us right now. Thank you for joining us. For AFEX, I want to, most of the people on the webinar are either in the maize value chain, worried about the policy and trying to see if they're either for it or not. But then most people are also like people trying to invest into the value chain and seeing the opportunities. AFEX is one of the largest aggregators. You also do commodity exchange. So I want you to talk about how this policy, how it affects on your operations, but most importantly, talk about the opportunities available in terms of commodity exchange for investors looking to invest in the exchange.
Thank you, Yewande. It's great to be part of this. I'm sure my colleague Akinyinka has done, as well as other panelists, have done a great job listing out the issues that we have. Now, again, for me, as a player in the sector, even before being the CEO of AFEX, it's the first time I have seen a double-sided intervention in the value chain. So, you know, when central bank as well as other regulators of the sector are saying, let us have a double-sided intervention. Let's supply the supply side and the demand side simultaneously, with access to credit, access to high variety, access to the agronomy, building an organized market for the sector. It's the first time I'm witnessing it, and I think this is the way to sustain having a food secure country and having getting Nigeria to the potentials where it needs to be. As a country, if we're able to double our yields and expand our production, you know, on the same hectareage, we should be producing 25 million metric tons of maize and providing all the gap across the West African coast. This is something we can achieve in 2 years if we continue with this. What has happened in the past is that you find a year where farmers are financed massively. You know, looking at the GS scheme that ran for 3 or 4 years, or looking at, and then what you then have is excess production without the market solution, without a storage solution, without the actual growth in demand to then mop up those excesses. Or you find a situation where in certain years, you have heavy investments into the demand side, funding a lot of the poultry associations, and then you don't have a commensurate boost in the supply side, and then prices jump up the roof. But in this year, what we see is a double-sided intervention that needs to be sustained over multiple years, and then we start to see the actual maize revolution and reap the benefits of what we can. The potentials that I see that we can really reap in the next year. Number one, I think maize, Nigeria needs to be the dominant supplier of maize for the region. Simply put, so we need to address the laws that prohibit maize export, because I think in 2 years the problem will be how are we going to provide market for the maize that we are producing as a country. So that's a holistic stance that I have. The second point is also we need to look at how to start building a derivatives market, so players on the market can hedge their risk. If millers and poultry farms have hedged their risk like everybody else in the world does, almost like taking an insurance on your price. So if you hedge it at 120 or 140, that's the price you get to pay, regardless of what the market is. So this is a sophisticated financial instrument that, as a commodities exchange, we are bringing to the market, working with central bank. We're also working extensively to ensure that, you know, by this time next year, we have over 100,000 hectares under cultivation through us, through our programs, through other partners, through other working directly with the Anchor program. So again, I think what I would implore all the players, reiterating what has been said on the panel before, is let us overlook the short-term pains and look at the big picture. Let's look at a future where Nigeria could be the largest producer of grains in Africa. That's the future that I see, and that's the support I joined Central Bank to rally up for. Thank you, Yewande.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balogun. Thank you, and thank you for joining us in transit. Please, I see a lot of questions in the chat box. Please put it in the Q&A box. We'll take questions right now. We have over 50 questions. So I'll just go ahead, and then some of the speakers, the panelists, can answer them. I want to ask how government will provide food security if it stops the importation of maize. We already answered that. What's Nigeria's annual demand of maize? I think that's about 7 million metric tons. I might be wrong. Average. I think Mr. Ayodeji can answer that.
11.4. 11.4. Supply is 11. So we have a 400,000 gap.
11.4.
Demand is 11.4 million metric tons and supply is 11 million.
400,000 gap is actually not Not
but that's
that
less than
bad.
5%. Yeah, it's about 3.5% of production. So it's something that if we have 200 hectares producing at 6 tons per hectare, as against the 2 tons per hectare, will close.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a message from Mohammed Olale. Do you consider the time lag in production before the policy implementation? So time lag, I think Mr. Owa and Seed Council can answer that. We already answered that. The time lag in production before the policy implementation. How can CBN address the issue of, sorry, you could go ahead.
Go ahead, I'll take the two questions together. Go ahead.
Actually, I don't even think this question is for you, but it's addressed to you. How can the CBN address the issue of low yield production? I think that should be for Seed Council, but you can go ahead and answer the first one.
Okay, let me answer the two together. Let me answer the latter one before the other one. What we've done this year, as part of our commitment to the process, is to ensure that this wet season, we ensure that everyone we finance use high yield seeds. Because we know that you can easily double production just by improving or using high yield seeds. And so what we did is to ensure that happens. And based on the field reports we're getting, those maize shoots are already coming out well. And that's what we intend to do also in the dry season farming. Now, for the question that that was asked concerning, remind me the first question again, if you don't mind, please. We're to Yewande.
Time lag in production.
Okay, time lag in production. Okay. First and foremost, the planning towards the wet season farming started as far back as January. We began to plan towards January and all that. However, like it has been alluded to, especially by the president of MAAN, we know this timing. Most times at this time, you have an issue around price increase. And what normally happens is that normally imports come in. When imports come in, by the time the harvest is coming in towards September, October, and those imports have come in, they now make the market, you have a glut in the market. So that's normally what happens. So we have an idea. However, the COVID situation also complicated issues further. So I do understand that there were COVID concerns. However, if we had encouraged maize imports in the country, what you would have then is a situation where even the farmers that were because of the lockdowns, reluctant to go to their farms, and you have imported maize, then they won't need to go to the farm. And if they don't go to the farm, it means they won't produce. So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, we need to also encourage these farmers to produce to ensure sustainability. So at the end of the day, the timing we felt strongly, having looked at all the parameters, was what we needed to do at that point in time to encourage our farmers plant and to ensure that by September, the harvests are already coming in. And before, if you even encourage anybody to import now, your imports will not come until about 90 days. By 90 days, the harvests are here. And so what you're going to have in the market is going to be a glut. I also believe that beyond the forex provision by the central bank, it's possible that there are some persons who bring in maize into the country with their own forex, and so maybe they do that. However, what we are simply saying as a central bank is saying that we will not want the forex, the scarce forex resource of the country to be utilized on importing maize when we know strongly that we have the capacity to produce maize in the country. And I think that is what the emphasis have been. And I think the stakeholders we've engaged, when we engage them, anytime we engage them, they see the brighter side. And like I said, our commitment in the short term is all the pain points. We are going to engage with every stakeholder involved to see how we can discuss and address whatever pain points that they have. Like I told you yesterday, I had a meeting with PAN. I'm also going to have a meeting with PAN and the Maize Association on Friday to close all pain points, because what is the essence of the policy if there's still pain? So we need to manage also the pain that will come out of it. That's my response.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ihua. Thank you. The next question is actually a great question because we didn't talk on post-harvest loss. So can you estimate, for maize statistics, I'll let AFEX answer this. For maize statistics, can you estimate maize post-harvest and input loss? Research suggests production subtracts post-harvest loss to equal yield of nutrition. And with this post-harvest loss, we will not meet Nigerians' needs or demands or consumer confidence. Should I take that again?
Yeah, so post-harvest losses, I don't think we have an exact number for Nigeria, but for maize value chain, it's about between 13.5 to 14%. And, interestingly, I always say grade 1 maize and a grade 3 maize come out of the farm, almost all the time as the same products, the same maize. What happens in the next 3 days and the next 2-3 months determine whether it'll, what percentage losses you'll have and what grade and what price you will be able to fetch. So we do a lot of work in educating our farmers in the best practices and also practices that ensure that you reduce the toxin levels in these grains. We also ensure that almost all our warehouses have toxin measuring equipment, so that we can conduct this test at random and advise accordingly where we notice that there are higher trends. So these are things that we need to push across the country as best practice. But yes, it is a problem we need to focus on. One of the other solutions that in the long run, when they effectively work, will help the entire industry are the silos that have been concessioned. When those silos start to store those grains, a silo can hold the grain for up to 2-3 years without any further infestation or contamination. So these are some of the infrastructure that exists in the country but have not been optimally used in the past, but hopefully will change in the years to come.
Hopefully that changes. And with every problem, there's always an opportunity. So I think it's also an opportunity for an investor to come into that space and solve that problem. The next question is from Mr. Olumide, Ibikunle, and Mr. Folarin. Thank you for seed information. How does seed smart hybrid technologies input production overcome significant post-harvest loss and input loss due to poor handling and storage? I think it's still in the same question, but I'll let Mr. Ibikunle answer that. Mr. Olumide.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yewande. And first of all, let me appreciate CBN. The first round of the discussions, Mr. Ihua, only told us about the reasons why CBN had to come up with this, but listening to him in the second round of the questions, I want to appreciate CBN because, and I like your phrase of using pinpoints, this is going to come. And that was why I said we've not seen the end of this. I mentioned this. And I want to appreciate the fact that you are open to communication after this and discussions after this, because that's the way to go. The fact is that, for me and my organization, yes, the smallholder farmer is our interest. We want to take him out of that level, to make him a medium large-scale farmer. That's our interest. But the fact is that all the players in the industries, we are all at different levels. Some are new entrants, some are just planning to enter. So, and we have different issues affecting our different organizations and even the different links in the value chain. Now, I mentioned that when we're looking at this, we need to look at it holistically. This question is talking about, the use of hybrid. Is a different thing entirely. Seed is different. Post-harvest, this is a post-harvest issue. And we're talking about glut, we're talking about all sorts of things, which Ayo has, alluded to. The fact is that we need to look at, when you look at what is happening now, we have climate change. We're producing a huge maize in the north of the country, and we rely on just natural sun to dry our maize. But now, what is happening to rain? Rain comes at any time, it stops at any time. So when we're looking at this, even increasing the productivity of the farmer, we also need to look at how do we ensure that that productivity is protected? And that is the post-harvest. How do we, and it starts from drying. We don't have anything of such in place. So if we're going to increase productivity of the farmer, we should think of how to protect that is productivity. So that at the end of the day, when he's selling his grains to anybody, is on that grade 1 level. And the grade 1 level it's not just the storage. It starts from that harvest point. At what moisture content does it take that maize out of the field? If it takes it out of the field at 20%, it needs to take it down to 13%. Now, it relies only on drying outside. It doesn't have any facility for him to check. And then at the end of the day, by the time he puts it in the store, after 3 months, it goes in there, he opens the bag, and then the thing is bad. And then the factory will come and tell him, oh, I'm not paying this much for this because it's grade 3, it's grade 4. So we need, these are two different things. The use of smart hybrid technology is different. The post-harvest is different. They are different issues. And when even Bello was talking, yes, farmers will enjoy, they will produce well, they have all the inputs, but please let us think of how we can protect. And this is a key one, post-harvest. And that is the drying part, storing in the right bags, having, the delivery points in the village or in the village centers where these things can be kept in the right conditions, and then they can be sent out to the factories. So these are the two different things, and I think with this kind of webinar, somebody's listening, and somebody can come. I know there are several even other players playing already in this space. They can come in terms of the post-harvest. The use of after save or whatever, yeah, you can use all those things, but you still need to harvest and dry down your maize grains before you can store. And I will also want to now take this opportunity to react to, respond to Mr. Ihua on the use of the parental materials. You are very right. It's a very small quantity. I mean, I appreciate your knowledge of that. It's a very small quantity that is needed. But again, companies are at different levels in this industry. You mentioned Pioneer. I'm sure you wanted to mention Premier because we've not started any discussion with you. Pioneer is a seed brand of Corteva. So just for clarification on that. In terms of local seed production, I think you have said you open up to have discussions. We will come to you because already we import our parent materials. Okelola has spent a lot, longer time explaining all that. I don't want to go back to it, but the fact remains that we need to listen to different organizations, and each organization should come with their plan. We want to do local production. Hybrid seed use in Nigeria is probably still less than, I'm not sure it's up to maybe like 10%. Most of what we still plant is open pollinated varieties. Even what is produced at the moment is still, I'm not sure, it's probably between 10 and 15% of the total seed. So like Okelola said, let us delineate between maize grain and seed. We are addressing grain production. In terms of seed production to produce the grain, do we have the capacity? Do we have enough seed? And if any organization comes to say, okay, yes, I am in this game as a seed producer, okay, how do you want to produce locally? What level are you now? Are you still bringing in parent seeds? If you're bringing in parent seeds, does that satisfy your whole certified seed production? Are you bringing in, do you need to augment with importation of certified seed? For how long do you want to do that? So that, everybody, we are all at different levels and we're all in this. We don't want to come in and go out. You need to encourage us to do business, but shutting down, because some of us, we bring in parent seeds, we produce, but what we produce is still not up to what we sell in terms of certified seeds. We still need to augment with a little bit of imported certified seed production for a while. And I mean for a while because we need to show you that plan. Is it going to take us 3 years? Is it going to take us 4 years? Local seed production, like Okelola said, is not bread and butter. I mean, do we have the capacity? Do we have the seedsmen? We need to train people to be seedsmen. We need to train the agronomists to be seedsmen. We need enough time to do all that. We need to create awareness to convert that farmer from using open pollinated variety to hybrid seeds. We need a lot of time. We need to create that awareness to sensitize the farmers, to even teach them the agronomy in terms of the agronomic practices in the field. So there is a lot of time to do that. So let us separate it. Grain production, yes, we want to do that. seed production, for the grain production, do we have enough of those seeds in the country? I mean, yes, those farmers you've given them money for 225,000 hectares or whatever. Yes, 225,000 out of 4.5 million of land for maize. That is a huge, and what Okelola told us is that the seed available is just a third of the seed need. So that means we still need to look at that aspect of seed very well. And I'm happy you said you are open. I mean, I'm happy because you also mentioned that this is not a closed thing. You are identifying all the pain points and making sure that you remove all those issues. So that's what I would like to add at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibikunle. In addition to your comments, no.
Okay.
I think you should answer this together. This is also similar to what he said. Establishing local production of seed often takes a bit of time and lots of investments in R&D. This requires ability to move parental materials, but also supplemental import of small quantities of commercial materials to enable companies establish a footprint while helping farmers familiarize with these varieties. Is there a likelihood to have a case-by-case examination of such cases, exemptions? And I think this question is for Mr. Ihua, but I'd let Mr. Folarin answer that, and then we'll go to Mr. Ihua so he could answer that.
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment, some of the questions that have been coming earlier, like the question on post-harvest losses and all those stuff. And I want to say the beginning of, solving post-harvest challenges is also using the right varieties, the resistant varieties, that will mean your material will be less susceptible to stresses in the field. And of course, to talk about the right extension, when to advise to harvest, and all the points that Mr. Ibikunle mentioning. And the need also to support the associations, to help their members so that they can take in the seeds maybe at the right time when the maize is physiologically matured, to a place where they can dry, for the members, so that they nib the issue of losses, from that point of view. And if we can do this, then we can get better quality materials into our store, to meet the grade A and not allow them to, deteriorate on the field, and vice versa. And I want to also say that the issue of getting high yield seeds, we need to work more closely together and be sincere to the farmers in Nigeria. The figures given by Mr. Ihua, 281,000 hectares cultivated in the wet season, 500,000 hectares planted for the dry season, and the fact that, how many seed companies are supplying these seeds, what is the volume of seeds we are looking at? I see almost like 11,000 metric tons from using maybe 25 kg per hectare, and these companies that are giving this, we need to affirm with the council, do they have that volume of, quality seed to supply for these interventions? If they don't have, where are they getting the seeds that, are supplementing what they are supplying? It means in one way or the other, grains are being mopped up to complement and meet this demand. And that is why we need to work together to ensure that anyone supplying seeds for the intervention of the CBN, we get the affirmation from the council that they have these seeds, they have produced it, and then they can supply. That is only when we encourage farmers to use improved seed in Nigeria. If we don't do this, our farmers will continue to have maybe concerns that seeds will not is not seed, because they see, of course, people mopping grains and coming back to sell to them as seed. So we need to, work closely. And I say it again, that everybody supplying seed must supply with the NASC seed codex. Without the codex, then such seeds should not be taken by any intervention. I think this is a very key point that I want to put. And it is only when we do this that we can meet, the quality standard and the volume that we are looking at. So I think that is one important thing I don't want to, let go. That it's burning in my mind, and I think we need to mention it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Okelola. Mr. Ihua? Should I take back that question?
Take the question again, please.
Okay. Where am I? Did I take? Sorry, 1 minute. Establishing local production of seed often takes a bit of time and lots of investment in R&D. This requires ability to move parental materials, but also supplemental imports of small quantities of commercial materials to enable companies to establish a footprint while helping farmers familiarize with the varieties. Is there a likelihood to have a case-by-case examination of such cases for exemption? So it goes back to what Mr. Olumide had mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you again for the contribution of the other panelists. Let's be very clear that any value add to the whole maize ecosystem is something that central bank will be willing to listen to, any value add. And so sessions like this, feedbacks like this are very important for us because we want to listen to what the market has to say. In addition to that, it's important to note that the issue of seed, like I mentioned, is one of the critical elements we're looking at. And so where there are discussions around parent seeds, infrastructure for setting up seeds, are discussions we're always willing to have because we know it's going to add value to the process. Yewande, in all honesty, my prayer is that in 2-3 years' time from now, we might have the same engagement, and it will be that we now have more seed companies in the country certified by the Seed Council. We have more seed companies, we have more people producing maize, we have enough maize in the country. That is the narrative we have. And so if that is the narrative we want, it's only fair for us to be open to listen on a case-by-case basis where there are a solid case made on for organizations who want to set up seed production infrastructure in the country, and they are willing for, they're asking for central bank to support them. We're always willing to listen, and we'll see how that will go. So for us, as far as it's going to add value to the maize ecosystem, we're willing to provide that necessary support. And be rest assured that what we've done for us is a sustainable model for ensuring that maize takes its pride of place in the country. It has to be a sustainable model. And that's why it's not just only about financing the smallholder farmers. We have chosen to help the supply end and the demand end. And just to add to this, even for the Maize Association and those we funded, part of the arrangement we kind of put in place is to ensure that they have off-taking agreements so that the issue around market will not be a problem. Because we have to look at everything holistically. So I want to assure everyone and every member of the panel and those listening to us, we've had a critical look at this. We took a critical look at this, and we're still listening to the public. We're still taking feedbacks, and these feedbacks that I've gotten here definitely will add to some of the decisions we'll be taking going forward. But be rest assured that we'll be willing to listen to any serious organization who will want to set up seed infrastructure in Nigeria or want to improve or increase its capacity in terms of its seed infrastructure in Nigeria, because it adds value to the maize ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isaiah, for clarifying that. One of the things we have for NASC as well, NASC, this question is for you. NASC should elaborate on status of local production of maize in Nigeria and the challenges. So do we have, I guess you can mention some of the local seed companies involved in local production.
Okay, thank you, Yewande. We have now over 314 registered companies in Nigeria. About 200 are pending, waiting for accreditation to be completed. And of all the 314, I can tell you that almost all of them have maize as part of their portfolio. The good thing about the intervention of the CBN is that it will ramp up, demand for maize, and it means more of these companies will go into production. What we have seen in the past 2-3 years is that few of these companies, because of no market, have not been producing. But we think that this intervention will encourage more of them to come back, to producing maize. And this intervention will not only affect the certified seed end, we are sure that it will also pull up the demand for foundation and breeder seed. It means research will also receive more call to produce parental material, and they will be able to also, the foundation seed companies, because now we have like 5 6, 7 companies that have been accredited to do foundation seed production. They will also be into production, and we can get, enough seeds. All this is just good communication on time. All these companies to even research can go into dry season production, and we can ramp up quality seed production. During the GES, we reached up to producing over 100,000 metric tons of maize seeds in Nigeria. So we can do it. We have done it before, and we can still do it. So I think locally we have the capacity, and if we start to meet immediately, because it's an immediate thing, then we can meet up increased production of quality seeds and be able to, meet the demand, even overshoot the demand, and start to, export maize to our sister countries in the West African sub-region. This is doable, and we should pursue it. So this is what I want to say here.
Thank you. That was actually promising. So opportunities for investors again to come to the value chain. This is definitely for Mr. Ihua. In the past, during the GES, some fake agro dealers were said to be going to villages to buy grains and packages as improved seeds to be sold to farmers. Are there some deliberate efforts at mitigating these sad situations, and how? I think Mr. Folarin can also answer that.
Well, I think since Folarin talked about GES, I'm sure he's in a better position to speak to that. All I can say on the issue around is the issue around seed for us and the central bank is that we know that within the maize ecosystem, there are critical pillars. One of the pillars is seed. And so if you are going to solve the whole gamut of issues around maize, it therefore means you must take the pillars one by one and handle them. And because we know that maize is a critical pillar, we're going to look at maize holistically in terms of helping to building, helping and assisting those who produce seeds to ensure, number one, they even have a market for their seed, and possibly help them in terms of their infrastructure for setting up those seed companies. So for us, it's important that that pillar is taken care of. It does not benefit anybody that somebody will go out there, take normal grains and put it as seed. It defeats the purpose. It does not benefit the farmer. It's an abuse of the system and the process. I think we will have to grow beyond that, where we have to be sincere and plain to the farmers. And just to speak to Folarin's point in terms of the numbers we are putting out there, Folarin, the maize president is here. The Maize Association president is here. You can confirm some of the statements we've made in terms of the use of high yield seeds. That's the commitment they've made to us. You can also confirm with all those others who have also, we can begin to ask ourselves the numbers and all that, but I mean, they can tell you clearly, our commitment is high yield seeds so that the farmers can get value. If a farmer who previously used to have less than 2.5 tons per hectare on his field, now can get between 5 to 6 tons per hectare. That is doubling his, and that automatically doubles his income. So that's the way we look at the numbers. We know high yield seeds will benefit the farmer and ultimately boost production. So that's really how we look at the numbers. But the issue on GES, I think Folarin will be able to speak to it. I'm not aware of that information, but I'm sure Folarin might be able to speak to that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I am not doubting the figures. I'm only saying let us be double sure that the seeds that is coming to give these figures, come from actual production by these people, so that we are sure of the quality, and somehow, somewhere, there's no mix up. And this intervention will also lead to a lot of interest in and investors wanting to come into the seed industry. We have seen it before. We know that seed production is not an all-comers affair. Seed is a regulated industry, and anybody that must produce and market seed must be accredited with the National Agri-Seed Council. So we will not be surprised if we start to receive more requests for registration of companies, and that is as alluded during the GES. We knew we had issues with people mopping up grain grains and, you know, selling as seeds to farmers. And that is why the council had moved very, very quickly. Just in June 2019, Mr. President signed the new Seed Act, the Act 21 of 2019, which now had stiffened the penalties, you know, for seed of offenders of the seed law. Before now, if you are caught infringing on the seed law, you are asked to pay a fine of 500 naira, or maybe the court jails you for 6 months. But now the fine has been increased to 1 million naira for a first offender and a minimum of 1 year imprisonment. And if you are a second offender, you'll be paying 2 million and you know, going to prison for 2 years and beyond. So with this, we are sure that to serve as deterrent to those who want to package grains and sell as seed. Even at that, we know some people may say they are ignorant of this, and that is why the council had also introduced a smart certification label, so that, just as in the pharmaceutical industry, our tags now, the seed codex that would be outside every packaged seed quantity that is to be sold, as a panel that can be scratched. And you know, when the farmer send a text message to a number on that panel, he can get information on the producer of that seed, what is in that bag, and whether that seed had been you know, certified by the council, and all those details. So it makes, you know, the terrain difficult for those who are not known to the seed law to operate in the art. And that is why I keep saying that this may not be as easy as it was then, because anybody that is coming to supply seed on any of these intervention must have gotten the NASC seed codex, because that is the final label that will be on the bag for you to be able to market or commercialize or play in any of these interventions. And when you get those tags, we can be sure that yes, council has done due diligence to make sure that this seed is actually of good quality. So these tags are you know, very, very a lot of things are gone into bringing them on board, and they are tamper proof. They are also not easy to fake. Anybody that want to fake it can as well use that money to produce genuine quality seeds. So with this, we are sure that we'll be able to overcome that challenge. What we need to do now is to make sure that everybody authorizing procurement for seed, make sure that the person procuring is that person that can, you know, get all what the law says about the seed is supplying. And when we do this, we will be able to overcome these challenges we have in the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Folarin. We're actually running out of time. We only have 10 minutes left, and we still have a lot of questions. So we'll just answer fast and try to get as much as possible. The next one is for Mr. Akinyinka Akintunde. Do you think production yield would increase if growers benefited from price appreciation by accessing markets? Would grower controlled on-farm storage connect production to yield and consumer confidence?
Thank you for that, Yewande. I believe inherently that if you have a system that promotes access to ready markets for the smallholder farmers, it has a capacity to increase their yield. And how do I mean this, right? So if you have a farmer that invests, let's say 50, 60,000 in his farm and is able to get a return of, let's say 120,000, this boosts his capacity to be able to farm more in the following season, right? So if you have by creating access to markets coupled with accessible financing, you have the capacity to move a smallholder farmers from cultivating a paltry 1 hectare to up to 2-3 hectares over the next 4-5 years. And if the more land you get to cultivate, then your production and your yield will inherently increase. And this is not in isolation with having access to quality seeds and then being able to access all these services across the value chain. And that's why you can't eliminate the role of a ready market when you are discussing access to financing and then production yield and increased capacities for smallholder farmers. Having all this structure in place will ensure that the underproduction of smallholder farmers will be greatly increased. Having access to quality seeds, larger land farming would leverage on economics of scale and enable the smallholder farmers to access more facilities that gives him more value for money, such as mechanization, access to quality seeds, access to quality inputs to increase their production value, as well as concurrently reduce their cost of production. Having all this in place will increase the total production value of smallholder farmers in the country, at the same time increase their productivity and bring Nigeria to a scale where it's comparable to other economies in the country, in the region.
Thank you very much. Thank you. This is for Dr. Abubakar. Actually, a simple question, and I don't even know the answer. How can a maize farmer join the association? There's also an additional question about the quality of production of maize. You answered that already. What is the distribution network? And how long will it take to meet the gap in production?
Okay. Let me start with the first question that how can you join the association? Maize Association is a national body that we have a network, all the federal, all the state of the federation, and then we have a structure that we have our national body and the state chapters. So we have a corporate body registration and individual registration. So therefore, anybody who wants to register with us, we have a state chapter. From the state chapter, we have a local government chapter down to the ward. So he has to obtain the form from the local government chairman to register as an individual. If it is a corporate a registration, he has to come to the national headquarters and register with us. And then the next issue, can you repeat it for me?
What is the distribution network, and how long will it take to meet the gap in production? I think that's based on production of maize. But I think you should talk more on the distribution network of the association.
Yes, of course. Really, we already have our network on the ground, and through this network, we have already channeled everything so that, right from the national headquarters down to the wards I have said. So we are working on our network so that everything will be channeled and disseminated to the grassroots of our farmers, so that we can now obtain all what we want to in terms of the production, to meet all the production that we want, so that we can bridge the gap of all what we need to do in terms of production of maize in Nigeria. And also, let me use this opportunity. Let me go back to the issue of the seed production that was discussed by some of my colleagues. I think at that juncture, you are supposed to even join us, because in terms of the seed production, Maize Association is #1 association that is collaborating with the National Seed Council of Nigeria, because Maize Association was formed by the maize scientists in IIT Ibadan based on how to provide a high quality seed to Nigerian farmers, to Nigerian maize farmers in Nigeria. That's how the Maize Association was formed. And since that time, we are working together with the National Seed Council of Nigeria. In 2014, we produced seed under National Seed Council of Nigeria during GS program. We produced certified seed, which was regulated by the National Seed Council of Nigeria. And also, even right now, as how Mr. Ihua said, that we have the commitment of providing high yield seed for this year production. Every year, this program we are participating, we have to send the list of all seed companies that applied to us, showed interest to participate, to the National Seed Council for verification and their recommendation and their approval. They have to give us the accredited list of maize seed companies. So therefore,
thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Abubakar. Thank you. We're running out of time.
This association is working very close with the National Seed Council, and then we have the hope that but very soon, MAAN will start producing seed certification seed on our own.
Thank you very much. We look forward to that. And for the last question, we're running out of time. I'll let Dr. Loretta Balogun answer this, please. Can you highlight, throw some light on the impact of high cost of fertilizers on maize prices?
Yeah, this is part of the pain points the farmers are having, because fertilizer last year was selling for about 7,500 for NPK, 6,500 for urea, and now it's 17,000, 17,500. So it's extremely high. I don't know if there's an intervention that the CBN has done to make it easier, but the farmers are really complaining. And the effect of this will be that they are going to reduce the quantity of land they cultivate for maize production. Because if they can't get fertilizer, they know that it's going to be, the farming will be in futility, because at the end of the day, they will not get the desired yield that they expect. So definitely we have discovered that I won't say 30% reduction in production of maize cultivation, but I'll say somewhere maybe about 20%. Some farmers have reduced the size of land that they would have otherwise have cultivated if they could get fertilizer at a cheaper rate. It's extremely high, over 2 times the price it was at last year for the crop 2019. So that's going to impact, on the prices of maize at the end of the day, and then the amount of yield that they are going to get at the end of the farming season.
Thank you very much, Dr. Balogun. Thank you. Sorry, I can't go through all the questions. We're running out of time. I apologize for that. Thank you for joining us. We have another session tomorrow that's more focused on the poultry industry. Please join us. You want to hear more from people in the value chain and obviously CBN representative. Thank you to all the panelists for joining us. Mr. Owa, thank you so much for being in the hot seat. Thank you to all the panelists. Really appreciate your time. You get the video later on this week in your inbox. Thank you. We appreciate it. Join us tomorrow. We really appreciate your time. Thank you. And if you have any additional questions, you can just send it to us or contact for the people on the panelists. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Wandie. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. And do have a wonderful day.
Thank you for your time.